Page 1, application transfers. First, we're going to go through the highlights of page number 1 of application of transfers. Up on the bottom, STW short name should always be CPL-001. STW stands for Share the Wealth, and CPL-001 is the name that identifies us with transfer. So that should never change, should always be on the application. Sales rep, here's where you're going to put your name. If you're sharing this application with multiple agents, just put your first name / and the name of the other agent. Sales rep code, you can leave that blank, even though our sales rep code is CPL-0022, that's for Fabiola. So like I said, just leave that blank. The system would automatically generate one for you. Association number. We have two choices for you. Highlights of this is if you want a $200 advance, which will take up 5% of residuals per life, you should put association number 1, and they'll pay us $200 up to 2 weeks is the most that you would wait to get that money deposited into your bank account. Now, if you want straight residuals, you should put in here association number 3. So it's very important to fill out this part because the person at the office entering this information needs to know who are we going to pay and how is this going to be split, and whether you want the $200 advance or you just want straight residuals. So we're going to go with box number 1. We're going to call box number 1 this area right here. Box number 1 is business information. All of this information is going to be given to you by the business owner. And do not guess any of this information. Most of this information you could retrieve it in a business card or in their federal tax return if you have it handy, but most of it you can just straight ask to the business owner all of these questions. Don't try to guess them. First, over here, legal business name. For example, here we have LTC Designs Inc. And now we have here on the other side DBA. DBA stands for doing business as. A lot of people get confused thinking that the legal and the DBA is the same. A lot of the times there is, and a lot of the times there isn't. The legal business name has to be shown exactly as they're all in their income tax return or all of their legal paperwork. Sometimes they register their business under a different name and then they come up with a very unique name to be remembered by. This is the case of one of them. LTC Designs is the legal name, but the DBA, which means everybody knows them by, Laura Carrillo Designs. Now, this could change if you have a sole proprietorship, which is someone registered doing business as an individual. The legal business name over here would be that individual's name. For example, if I'm doing business as Fabiola Salayandia, but I'm doing business as Corny and Cheesy, which is a food truck, over here where it says legal business name, I would have Fabiola Salayandia, which is my legal name, and doing business as, everybody knows me as Corny and Cheesy food truck, right? Legal address most of the time is the same as the DBA. A lot of the times there isn't. So pay attention. Ask the merchant if the legal address is the same as the DBA. Again, DBA stands for doing business as. City, state, SIP, legal phone number, legal fax. Sometimes it's the same as the DBA and the DBA for the fax. So again, just ask for that information. Don't guess. Now, it's very important here in this line over here that says email address for notices. If you put here the business owner's email, any notification will come in an email. So be sure to ask your merchant if they have a high filtered, risk on their email. Because if let's say transfers troubleshooting at transfers.com sends them an email notification letting them know that they have a chargeback, or any time-sensitive matter that they need to answer, and it goes to their junk mail or spam, that's going to create a problem. So ask your merchant if it's okay with them to put their email address over here so they can be notified via email for any additional action that has to be required. If the business owner answers that it is not a good idea, just put in there, prefer to be notified via paper, or just leave it blank. Customer service phone number, just put the same as it could be the legal or the DBA. Customer website, if they have one, please put it in there. It does help underwriting to approve your account faster. Underwriting is going by this application, basically believing anything you're writing on this app. They don't know the business, they're not here, they're in another city, so whatever you can put in here to prove that this business is legal, legit, and that exists, it would help underwriting to get the process started and approved faster. Length owned, you know, if this is a brand new business, put in here if they've been open for only 1 month or 2. Just be sure to be as accurate as possible. Preferred address for statements, chargebacks. Statement and chargeback. These are, statement is it's basically the summary of all the transactions and deposits that they're going to be given by the end of the month. And chargebacks is if they have to fight some sort of unauthorized charge because they weren't careful enough to ask for an ID, or maybe they took a stolen card, or maybe just the client's trying to charge back something they bought. There's a couple of reasons why they can have a chargeback, which we'll go over in another page. So just check in the box whether they prefer to have it to the legal address or to the DBA. I've seen where the merchant has their legal information as their home, and then they have the DBA as actually the business. So sometimes the merchant or the business owner does not want their employees to open or to be acknowledged of any kinds of monies, accounts, or even just amounts of any kind of their business related. So if that's the case, ask them where they would like to have their statements and their chargebacks delivered. Now, email address, again, TransLink. If you check this box, whether you check it or you don't, TransFirst actually gives every client for free for 3 months TransLink. TransLink is right here. TransLink is actually the ability to see their statement online. So everybody's going to get it whether they like it or they don't. It's a freebie. It comes in a combo when you actually sign this application. It's free for the first 3 months. After the 3rd month, you need to call tech support or partner sales support, or give us a call at the office at 915-626-7000 to have us remove TransLink from the account. The actual cost for TransLink is $2.50, and the retail price of TransLink is $7. So you will make a profit that we will split in half for you, half for Cornerstone. But if the customer doesn't want to have TransLink, you need to call and remove it. It's not going to automatically be removed. Someone has to call and have that removed. Otherwise, the merchant's going to be billed every month. If the merchant's happy with it, which is typically the situation, everybody wants the convenience to see their statement online so they don't have to wait until the end of the month to get a statement. It's very convenient. So almost everybody wants it, but just to be on the safe side, if you see that your customer's not using it, do them a favor and make sure they're not being billed for a fee of something that's not being used. Contact name, Laura Carrillo is the example here. That's the person to contact. She's the owner. That's her phone number. I recommend that you put the cell phone number over here instead of the legal or DBA, just in case I need to get a hold of that business owner for some particular reason that requires action that is time sensitive. If the business owner does not want to give out their personal cell phone, that is completely fine. Just go ahead and put either the legal or the DBA. In this case, it's exactly the same one. Any prior bankruptcies? Check yes or no. If yes, the filing date. In here, you must know that if the bankruptcy was 10 years ago, don't even bother to put it in here. This will help the application to get through underwriter faster. So if it's been more than 10 years, even though they had one, just put in there no, because it's already off the books. So personal, yes or no. If yes, file date. Bankruptcy could be for the business or could be for the individual, okay? Business type. Here we have a couple of options right here. Retail, retail with tips, restaurant, moto, internet, lodging, supermarket, utility, pharmacy, and business to business. The most common one is this one over here, retail. Retail with tips, I do not recommend that you use retail with tips. The reason is the machine would automatically prompt a verbal tip. We'll go over that on page number 5 or 6 on how to set up the terms and the directions to program a terminal. So just keep two things in mind. If they do any sort of business where they don't need a tip line, just check in here retail. If they need a tip line, even though this is not a restaurant, go ahead and check restaurant. That's just one thing that may not make a lot of sense, but it's kind of like a highlight over here that you need to know. So no tip line, check in retail. Yes, they need a tip line, check in here restaurant. When would you check moto and internet? Maybe if this is, moto stands for mail order, telephone order, meaning that all of the sales are done online. A great example of this would be eBay. On eBay, there's not a storefront. There's just mail order, telephone order, or internet. So those two would fall in there. They just, moto is for anything that is typed in where the card is not present. And internet, they're just separating this. So who's going to answer this? It's probably the merchant. It's going to tell you, and you're going to be able to figure this out. Very rare day you would use lodging, supermarket, utility, or pharmacy. These are typically left blank. Here's another box that you need to fill out regardless of how they do business, which is business to business percentage. There must be a number put in here from 0 to 100. So if this is a flower shop, this is a good example. Do these guys do business to business or just business to consumer? They're only interested in knowing what the percentage would be from business to business. In this case, this is a retail flower shop, but they may do some, I'm going to say 20% business to business, but let's say this was a flower shop wholesaler. So mainly their business to business percentage here would probably 80% to 100%. So keep in mind it's going to vary. I'm going to say that the typical response from business to business for a regular retail account is maybe 10 to 20%. The rest is maybe business to consumer. Now in here it's asking you to detail business description, include a description of products or services sold, provide separate pages if needed. This is very important because the person at the office inputting this whole application needs to look for MCC code, which we don't expect you to guess it or know which one it is. Sometimes it's shown on the EIN, sometimes it's not. So if you know it or the customer knows it, go ahead and put it in there. It's a rare day that someone knows the MCC code. So depending on the description that you're going to provide, we're going to be able to find the appropriate MCC code. So be as descriptive as you can. You do not need to provide separate pages. This is just for us at the office to be able to choose from 600 MCC codes. For example, if they sell clothing, don't pull in here just retail. Retail of what? Retail of clothes, retail of shoes, retail of handbags. Just be as descriptive as you can so we can put the appropriate MCC code. Failure to do so may put the agent, not the agent, this account on a different grid and may end up charging them a little bit more than we should have. So it's very important that you guys are descriptive But keep in mind, you don't need to provide separate pages unless you think they do a very complex business, and then we need to probably do something about it. So that's box number 1 over here. Box number 1 has everything to do with the business, their legal information, their DBAs, and where are we sending the information and how we're doing business. Now, this box number 2, which is W-9 information, it's one of the most powerful boxes in this application. Why? The IRS demands every ISO in the US to report all sales that are processed through a credit card machine. Back in the days, we didn't have to report it to the IRS, and merchants could, or business owners could go away with reporting whatever they wanted. You know, some merchants are not as honest as others, and they don't report the whole sales that they're doing. But we are obligated by law to report all of the sales that are going through the credit card machine that we provide. So in this box over here, we're going to provide to the IRS the appropriate information for them to find the business owner. So your failure, or the business owner's failure to provide with the accurate information on this box number 2, could be a result of a fine for your merchant and a very upset merchant for you, probably wanting to cancel this account. So the business legal name over here, it even has a note that says, as shown on your income tax return. So if you see that the merchant is unsure of the name over here, have them go look for a previous tax return and have them read exactly the name as it's shown over there. So the business name should be put in here. Typically, the business name and the legal business name, it's exactly the same. So whatever you put in here has to go in here. Now, this is a very confusing part. The taxpayer identification number must be 9 digits. They're talking about the federal tax ID, if possible. If you get 11 digits, to get 9, you must remove the first and the second, and that's how you get 9, which they're asking only for 9. You're going to check in this box if it's an EIN, if it's a Social Security, or if it's an ITIN. EIN stands for Employee Identification Number. Social Security can only be provided if this corporation is a sole proprietorship. Sole proprietorship is an individual. That's the only reason or entity that the IRS will allow to have Social Security instead of an EIN or an ITN or a federal tax ID, because you can do business under your social. So if they have a sole proprietorship right here, they can use their social. A lot of sole proprietorships prefer not to be giving out their Social Security, and they get an EIN separate, so they don't have to put that in any type of paperwork. The next one would be ITIN, which stands for Individual Taxpayer ID. Who would use the ITIN? Probably a non-US citizen that is doing business in the US. They can get an ITIN. It's very rare that you get one of those. The most common one would be an EIN or a Social Security. So again, business name, put in here as shown on tax return. The address, just be repetitive and put again the address over here, state, city, and zip code. If you leave anything blank, we're gonna assume you just either don't know it or forgot. So we're gonna ask you the huge favor of not leaving anything blank, and if there's something that it doesn't apply, please put there N-A for non-applicable, so that way we know that you didn't forget to fill it out, and we know that you meant to leave that blank or that you don't have the information. I encourage everybody not to check this box over here. Very important that you don't check the box over here. By checking that box, you are consenting transfers to send you everything via email. So the email is right here. So if you put the email here and you check this box, you're authorizing transfers to send any notification, any notification coming, especially from the IRS, through transfers to go through their email. Again, if this is a person that doesn't check their email, if this is a person who has their high level of security on their email too high, it's going to go directly to junk, and it's time sensitive. So I believe if you get an email through your email account from the IRS, you're going to probably think it's a scam. You're not going to open it, and you're not going to do anything about it. But if you get a letter on your mail, regular mail from the IRS, first thing you're going to do is you're going to open it, you're going to see what's going on. So I recommend everybody not to check the box, so you're not consenting and not acknowledging the tax-related documents to be delivered via email. So don't check the box. Next is they're wanting to know and tie up whatever they have on the information on the records, the type of ownership. So here are the options. Sole proprietorship, again, that is only if they register their business under the name. Political organization, exempt payee, most of them are not, unless this is a nonprofit organization, they're exempt, they don't pay taxes. Could be an LLC, public corporation, partnership, LTD, limited liability partnership, which is, it's not this case. Government, the case over here is private corporation, so if you see the word Inc. after the legal name, you know right away it's a private corp. It could be a non-profit corporation, it could be a trust, it could be a professional association. Most commons are sole proprietor, LLC, private corp, and limited liability partnership. So very important, box number 2. I would definitely say to my merchant or my business owner, whatever I put in this box is going to be the information that the IRS is going to have to match your records with the records that we provide. If anything is inconsistent or it doesn't make sense, they're going to do a couple of attempts before they find the merchant. They're going to let us know that there's a mismatch, and they're going to give us about 3 to 6 months to get it fixed. If we don't get it fixed, what's going to happen is the IRS is going to withhold 28% of their sales, and it's not going to give back to them until their next tax return season. So that would leave you with a very upset client and with no way to give them back their 28%. So this is a fine. The IRS won't return anything until the next period of taxes, and there's nothing we could do about it because it comes directly from the IRS. So this is very important that you pass this information to the merchant so they know exactly how important it is for them to provide with the accurate information. Okay, box number 3, owner and officer information. Owner and officer information refers to the name of the business owner. We're going to want their complete name here, their title, their social security, their date of birth, the percent that they own, their residential address, city, state, and zip, and their residential phone number or cell phone if would be preferable. I've had a couple of merchants who don't want to provide their social security. Some people have had bad experiences, and maybe they got their information or their identity stolen, and they don't want to provide their social. If that's the case, can it be done? Yes. Yes, it could be done. Just keep in mind, if they don't give out their social security number, they're going to ask for financials of the business, meaning tax returns, balance sheet, profit and loss. So if they don't want to give you out their social, just keep in mind, you'd let them know they're going to have to provide a lot of paperwork, but yes, it could be done. Some merchants just don't want to give out their social. It's completely fine. It would just require additional paperwork, and some of them are even more upset to have to provide with more paperwork. So it's just for you to know. Now, last box, which is box number 4, Patriot Act and site survey. This portion over here, it would be something that you would be filling out. I recommend tremendously that when you get there, you get a business card, you ask for a voided check, you ask for their driver's license, and you can start filling out this application with a lot of things, with those 3 things that I just told you. And then you still have to go through it and ask the client to verify a lot of information for you. Now, Patriot Act is basically government wants to make sure where money's coming from and where money's going to. They want to make sure that no one is laundering money. That's what this box is for. So they're asking for business form and identification, and they're asking for individual form of identification. You should provide two, one of each, one for the government, one for the business, one for the individual. However, we can get this application approved with only one of them. But I recommend if you have two of them, it will just make the process smoother, because underwriting would be able to corroborate that this business exists and that is legit. So most common business form of identification, it's probably the business license. So you're going to retrieve the business name, the date and place of issuance, the ID or IRS employee ID if you have it, and the expiration date. For the individual form of identification, the most common one is a driver's license right here. It could be a state ID, could be a passport, could be a military ID. Again, they want you to retype the name, date of birth, driver's license number, date of issuance, state, county of issuance, and expiration date. Again, for the business form of identification, could be a business license, a tax return, entity articles, business financial statement, or government entity. Now, on the bottom of this application, we require for you to check these check marks over here. On-site visit done by the sales rep and business consistent with the application should be checked. And it should be checked that merchant's physical inventory is consistent with the business signage. The first signature you need is over here, and it's not the business owner or the merchant signature. It's actually the sales rep. And what it is you're giving faith to this underwriting person who's going to try to approve this application that this is not a front, and this is actually a business that is legit. So if you can, just make sure you sign, date, and put it over here. Thank you very much. Again, the highlights of application page number 1, making sure that you understand the difference between legal and DBA. It's not the same legal than they do business as. This is also called trade name, in case you've heard it. DBA is doing business as, or trade name. Making sure you understand the difference between an EIN, social, and ITIN. Making sure you understand that we need at least one of these two, if possible. Would really help to get both forms of identification. And first signature is the agent, and most important of all, you need to let us know over here whether you want to get paid the $200 up front or you don't. So this is page number 1 of application for transfers. Thank you, and you can watch the next video to go to page number 2. Bye-bye.